Looks like it's loading. Bear with us here.
That's live on YouTube.
Good.
We're going.
It looks to be there. Hang on a second here.
I'm just looking on my phone so I can see if I can see it.
Says live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yep. I see myself on YouTube and looks like we're
Good.
good to go.
Okay.
And I am the only one watching. So, okay, so now I'll call the meeting to order. And Steve, do you want to call a quick roll call?
Sure. Let me get back to my. Okay, Mayor Devine.
Here.
Wayne Clark. Wayne, I think I saw you before. Are you muted?
He's muted, but his mouth is moving.
Okay.
Hello.
There
Hi,
he
Can you
is.
hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kathleen Dagenhart.
Here.
Brian Frank. Ben Holt. John Keckeisen. Amanda Nowak. Rossi Menka.
Here.
David Rashka.
Here.
Eric Torkelson.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, we have 5 plan commissioners plus the mayor present. We have a quorum.
Very good. We'll move on then to item C on our agendas, which is approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Clark, a second by Commissioner Dagenhart. Were there any changes to the minutes?
No.
No. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The minutes are approved. And we will move on to item D on our agendas. I'm sorry, we will move on to item D2, which would be 2A and 2B on our agendas. I'll turn that over to staff.
Katie's going to present this.
Okay.
Thanks, Mayor. So today we are looking at the site on Greenfield that was formerly the Pick and Save. Festival Foods has submitted an application for the city to put a grocery store in that location. The current zoning of that property is C3, and there is a PDD overlay, which staff is recommending be removed as part of this approval process. Because it's over 50,000 square feet, it is considered a large retail development, which is a special use in the C3 district. So there will be a public hearing on September 1st regarding this project.
Let's go PowerPoint. There we go.
Let's see. So this is just, I wanted to show some existing photos versus the renderings and what we're looking at here. So this will be about a 73,000 square foot store. They're proposing to do a comprehensive facade update to make improvements to the site and the landscaping. They're adding a pedestrian connection to Greenfield Avenue from the entrance and also improving the secondary tenant space. This view is of that other tenant space that's on the site and what it looks like today. And you know, with working with this team, they've decided, as you can see in the lower image, to really revamp how that entrance is set up so that it's more welcoming and appealing for a tenant in that location. All right, so this is just a general quick overview of the Festival of Foods store and their operations. Their plans that show coffee shop, deli, bakery, meat and seafood, take-home meals, catering, and then they have a separate entrance for wine and spirit section, which you can also access through the store. They are proposing a brat barn, which is a place where community groups can come and sell items for fundraising events. There will be a hometown cafe inside, which is a place for veterans to come in and gather. They will be having seasonal events, so a seasonal plant sale and a pumpkin sale. The plant sales around Mother's Day and the pumpkins are around Halloween. Click and go ordering will be available online. Their hours are going to be 5 a.m. to midnight, and they're open every day except for Christmas. And they anticipate having 75 full-time employees and 175 part-time employees. So this is just a quick look at the facade and some of the materials that they're going to be using to improve this site. There'll be a variety of metal panels used. They will be painting the existing brick and CMU and the concrete that's on site, and then also adding some stone veneer around some of the edges and the cornering to have that nice variety of materials. So this top image is the original submittal that we got from Festival Foods. And as part of that, if you saw our staff report, we were recommending that windows be added to the second story in the middle, and then some windows on the lower portion towards the left side. They actually, saw our comments and turned around and got us some revised plans pretty quickly. So they did add windows to the upper story there in the middle, but staff does still recommend having windows on the lower side in between the tenant space and the wine and spirits entrance. And we realize that there are some issues with the floor plan. It's I believe the online ordering area where that all is being prepared. And so we can work with them about having some sort of blind or closure or something else that would maybe not allow people to see necessarily into all that. But we do think it's an important element for that section of the building. And the other thing, so a change that you might notice on this second version on the bottom is on the right-hand side, the north end of the building. They changed the way that the windows are set up, and I don't think staff necessarily has a preference either way. They both look pretty nice if you see the renderings. We just want to have discussion about, why those choices were made and if we think that an awning would be more effective or not. But honestly, we like both versions. So just a discussion piece for us to have with the applicant as we keep moving forward. Looking at the north elevation now, which is the side that will be visible from Greenfield Avenue. Again, in the original request, we were recommending windows be added in 2 areas. They did revise their plans and added them in the one spot there in the gray section, but staff is still recommending additional windows in the upper unit of the green portion of the building to kind of add some additional transparency to this elevation. And the other photos, so one is of Hales Corner. You can kind of see what that side view looks like with a window there, and you can see that the green portion also has a window. And versus the existing condition today, it's definitely going to look a lot better. They're really adding some diversity in the materials there, having those metal panels be hung, and you can sort of see it in this lower picture. But that loading dock area is set quite far back as well. And then the existing loading dock that's closer to Greenfield Avenue, they're actually just getting rid of altogether. So that will be a really nice improvement there. This is just some images of the south elevation. The improvements on this side are pretty minimal. There's not a lot of visibility on this side of the building. So, we really wanted to work with them to focus their efforts on the east and north elevations. But they will be painting, adding some stone at the corners, adding an awning over that entryway, and doing some other cleanup work there. And similarly on the west elevation, this is the back of the building and what is next to Milwaukee plate glass with similar improvements to the other side. So next we'll move on to the site and landscape plans. And Festival Foods is proposing to generally maintain the existing configuration of the site, but they will be repaving the parking lot, adding some landscaping, adding a lot of landscape islands, updating the existing sidewalk, and then you can see that pedestrian connection that I mentioned before, going from the north side of the building out to Greenfield Avenue. They are intending to, I believe, use the existing light poles that are on site, but they'll be replacing the fixtures so that they're full cutoff LEDs. This proposal does have 417 parking stalls. And if we were to count the entire space of this building as retail, the maximum number of parking spots required would be 311. So there's definitely plenty of parking and room for some of the later recommendations that we have as well. This is just a quick shot of their planting schedule. Like I said, they are adding a decent amount of landscaping, especially along Greenfield Avenue, to kind of freshen that space up, make it look a little more modern, and sort of add some additional blocking to that side of the building. And the only recommendation we had related to this so far is that the stone mulch be replaced with bark mulch. And that's just a comment that we've typically gotten in the past from our forester. Really, it's about, the stone kind of makes it feel like more concrete almost. And so when you have a parking lot that's this massive, it's nice to have something a little softer in those areas. And we are still waiting on additional comments from our city forester, but as soon as we get those, we will also pass those along to the applicant if there are any. So one recommendation that we had in our staff report is that we'd like to see additional pedestrian connections, not just to Greenfield Avenue, but also through the site itself and connecting to adjacent sites. So this would include a raised sidewalk, pedestrian lighting, landscaping, pedestrian signage, accessible ramps, and again, connecting to those other nearby users. And these are some examples of recent projects that have been approved by Plan Commission and what are sort of setting the standard for the expectation of a grocery store this size. As you can see, there's the pedestrian sidewalk through the parking lot. It's well landscaped. There's sufficient pedestrian lighting. There are sidewalk connections that take you through the site, but also to the neighboring sites. And so we want to make sure that that is also included as part of this project. Another recommendation we have is we need to get a little bit more specific information on what's happening near this outlot building that's on the site. It is a different parcel, so we are not reviewing that parcel today or making any recommendations for that. But on the plans that we do approve, they need to be accurate for what is there today. And at this time, there is a building there, and so you can see that they sort of have parking stalls there, and there isn't actually a full drive aisle in that space. So we need to get that corrected. You can see today how they deal with that is they just have those parking stalls kind of notched out. I'm not sure that's that's the best solution. Maybe temporarily, it could be an option, but obviously long-term, we'd like to see something a little more in-depth and functional there. And the applicant does also own this parcel, and they've indicated that they have intentions to, you know, improve that site. They just have not gotten to that quite yet. So we are expecting that in the future. So when, oh, sorry, you can go back to that one, Steve, please. Steve, can you go back one slide? Thank you. So staff's initial recommendation was when looking at this site was to say, well, you know, why don't we use that space as an opportunity to add some additional landscaping and kind of green and soften up this site a little more, since that parking lot is so large. And then it can also act as a buffer to this other property. You know, the applicant responded saying, you know, they just don't know what they're doing with that site yet. So they don't necessarily want to commit to putting anything right next to it. You know, if then they have to come back and tear it out later, which seems like a reasonable, you know, request. And so they've asked that they be able to, you know, more specifically address that portion of the site, as well as the pedestrian connection once they have more finalized plans for that outlot. So that would be sort of a phase 2 of this project. And staff is supportive of that. I think if that's the way that they'd like to handle it, that is fine with us. You know, we just do need to have on the current plans something corrected in that area to show what it'll actually be today. You know, we need to come up with a timeline for when those phase 2 plans are expected. And then the other thing that we've typically requested of similar projects where there's a phase 2 is to submit what we, for lack of a better word, call a contingency plan. So basically saying, you know, if in 2 years, nothing happens on this outlot, if in 2 years we have no additional plans, then this is what will happen. And so maybe that's just turning that into a green space, and adding that pedestrian sidewalk. Maybe it's, you know, adding additional landscaping and having more parking. You know, we can talk about what that phase 2 is going to look like a little more. The contingency plan will look like a little more with the applicant. But staff is comfortable taking that route if Plan Commission is. And so we also requested that they submit additional plans to show their seasonal sales, and they did also amend their plans and send those in. So you can see that near that outlot building is where they intend to have their pumpkin sale, and then the Mother's Day plants would be sort of along the building on the sidewalk there. Staff is also recommending that their parking and pedestrian signage be more integrated into the site, rather than, you know, as you can see at the Hales Corners location on those bases. We just think it looks cleaner and more, you know, fully thought out when they're actually integrated permanently into the site, into the landscaping. And another recommendation we had was that their plans should reflect that the non-conforming sign that is on the site will be removed. They do have an existing easement with another property owner, so that is something, they do have some representatives here today. Maybe there's an update on that, but you know, they have said that they intend to approach that owner and try to work out some sort of solution to be able to get that sign down and potentially get up a traditional conforming monument sign that meets the code today. And, you know, staff just wanted to note that if the applicant shows that they've done their due diligence and really tried to get this sign down, but they are not having any success with that, they would have an opportunity to come back and make that case to Plan Commission so that their plan can be amended to include it. I think that's hopefully a last resort, but an option that we could consider. And they have also provided some additional details that we asked about in the original staff report. They've showed us the location of their bike racks, the details of the seating that they'll be providing near the barn space, and the cart corral details, which seem to be pretty similar to the ones that are in Hales Corner, which is what that green photo is of. So staff does recommend approval of the special use and site landscape plan with the following conditions. Some of these are crossed out because they've already provided this information, but I just wanted to keep them on there for the sake of consistency with what you've seen before. So again, discussing the windows on the east and north elevation, that contingency plan, including the pedestrian section, more information about a phase 2 plan, as well as that revised travel lane in the parking lot. More information about the accessible parking and the pedestrian parking being more permanently installed. And let's see, the mulch, the forester approval, and the removal of the non-conforming sign. Additionally, we, as usual, would request an estimate of their site and landscape, or their landscaping costs, and then a bond or surety in equal to 125% of that cost. They also need to get approval from Common Council, which should theoretically happen on September 1st, and show compliance with our stormwater management. And again, just the statement about the freestanding sign and having that be removed. I think the applicant did request 5 years rather than 2 years. So maybe that's something we can discuss quickly. They would like to do it sooner than 5 years, but 5 years seemed like a number they were comfortable with at this time. So, and then just the last two recommendations are, can take place at a later date, and are on the next slide, are submitting their master sign plan and then the removal of the PDD overlay district. So that was a lot of information. If anyone has any questions or wants to talk about anything specifically, I'm happy to answer questions. And then Festival of Foods also has, I believe, 3 representatives on the call tonight, Lauren, Brian, and Grant, so they can also help answer questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Katie. Wayne?
Yes, thank you. Katie, thank you for that comprehensive presentation. Several questions. One, the last point you were making about the 5 years versus 2 years, what's that about?
For the time frame in which that pole sign should be removed.
Okay, thank you. That outlot, that building is vacant currently, correct?
Correct.
Wasn't that many, many years ago a gas station?
I believe, yes, that's.
And when will construction start?
I'm not sure about the construction date. Would one of the Festival Foods people like to address that?
Sure. I'm Brian Bauman. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Counsel at Festival, and thank you for letting us be part of this. Right now, the target would be, assuming that we get approval on September 1st and work along that path line, is that we would start construction yet this fall with the target of an early spring opening in 2021.
Thank you. And Katie, final question from me. What is a cutoff LED light fixture?
So that just means that the light is going to go directly down instead of spraying outward. It prevents, poor light pollution, and it's the standard basically today, and it's a lot better than lighting that was previously used. I don't know if someone else has a more technical answer.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I think this would be a great addition for our city, and I'd like to recommend approval.
Great, thank you.
I would second approval, Kathleen.
Okay.
Hi, Katie. I have a few questions, or just some food for thought. What does everyone think about permeable pavers? It is a large site, and I think it would look very attractive. if we had some areas or if the whole thing could be permeable. And a lot of that could actually get paid for by Fresh Coast Guardians. They would pay a bulk of that. It's just a suggestion or just a thought for the stormwater management. And maybe that's something for the Common Council to bring up also.
Yeah, I mean, from a planning staff perspective, we always love to see permeable pavement included in projects, but, I know there is typically a higher cost associated with that. And I don't,
Sure.
so, the idea of, having some funding resources is great. I don't know if anyone from Festival Foods has any comments on that, if you guys discuss that in your plans or are open to continuing that discussion for maybe certain sections of the site.
I think we need to talk to our internal folks, our facilities people. One of the challenges that we have, obviously, if you're talking about putting that kind of material in the parking area and things like that is really maintenance and upkeep and things like that. So we can certainly discuss that. There's also some kind of cap issues that we're dealing with, but we can certainly discuss that. I think we would probably prefer not to go that route. We do not have that at any of our other stores around the state. And, I think we've done a pretty good job, and I think the Common Council will see on the stormwater management, but everything is open to discussion.
Sure. It was just food for thought, just an idea.
And good evening, Plan Commission. Grant Ducatch with Excel Engineering here, representing Festival. And just some additional information on that is that our plan is to pulverize the existing asphalt parking lot in place. So we'd be leaving the aggregate base section in place and then just putting asphalt back down to
Sure.
keep the same line and grade. Converting that to a permeable pavement scenario, which is very good in a green method, but we have to be looking at an under drain system. It's a significant improvement from just the more or less parking lot relay and improvement of that pavement surface that we're looking to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead.
This just relating to your items B and C on the staff recommendations, Katie. In the previous slides, you had indicated putting potentially a time frame restriction on that outlot or contingency plan, and I'm just curious if any of the other plan commissioners or Katie, if you have any comments on including that language in the recommendations. C indicates that you would like a date, but does it make sense to include kind of that 2-year time frame or some sort of a deadline to get the information on that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I probably should have had that language in there. So yeah, we can add that to that specific recommendation.
Thank you.
And one thing I can add on that topic is we certainly plan and look forward to activating that site. We think it's going to be a very attractive site. Once the store opens, I think you're going to see a lot of traffic through there. So that's certainly something that we want to do. We think we can make that kind of a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario. It's just right now, especially in the current environment that we're in, and as far as commercial development, commercial real estate and things like that, it's really hard to really put any detail around what that's going to look like. We're already working on that. We're already having some discussions, and we know we'll obviously be coming back before the folks here. But we're comfortable with that time frame. But just to understand, a little bit of that's out of our control, but we are going to look to activate that site as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission or anything else to add from the representatives from Festival? If not, we have a motion and a second in front of us. And if there is no other discussion on that motion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And if there is anybody opposed, please say no. Hearing none, the item carries.
All right. Thank you very much. We look forward to continue to work with you and the planning team. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Did it.
Thank you, Commission.
We will now move on to item 3. I'm gonna guess that Steve is taking that one, but I
That-
could be wrong.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Okay,
So item 3 is the proposed zoning ordinance text amendment for Beyond Vision to requesting a training or counseling center for workforce development facilities operated by a nonprofit social service organization for the purpose of enabling job and career opportunities to persons with sensory or physical disabilities. Both James Curlin of Wiscraft, doing business as Beyond Vision, is with us this evening, as well as attorney Alan Markowitz. So we welcome you both tonight. If you recall, previously there was consideration, and actually no consideration, it was actually withdrawn, but they were thinking about rezoning this property from commercial C3 to M1 manufacturing. This request this evening is a bit of a shift from that previous rezoning request to an ordinance change. And with any ordinance change, it requires planning commission consideration as well as a common council consideration as well. So it will be council's option, expecting this to come before council on September 15th. It'll be council's option to determine whether or not they want to go to a public hearing with this. But we'll get into the meat of their proposal first. I also want to allow some time for both Jim Curlin and his team to address the Planning Commission as well. Their organization does quite a bit for persons with sensory visibility issues, and it's something of an organization that they want to accomplish a lot under one roof. And if you had a chance to take a look at the staff report, you'll notice that it is the former Sam's Club property at 1540 South 108th Street. It is zoned C3 commercial, and while most of their a good portion of their use under the roof is to provide space for commercial office administration of their organization and the organization's mission, there's also roughly about 60% of the same floor plan that's indicated as manufacturing. So the building overall is roughly about 140,000 square feet, and their plan is for about 40% of office and commercial uses, and then the other 60 or so percent to be manufacturing. And by manufacturing, as part of their application, they indicate machine shop space, as well as some assembly, putting things together and then shipping them out the door. But the other portion is again where they would actually offer some commercial space for not only their own organization's administration, but that of perhaps other commercial uses, perhaps the clinics and other office space. So the portion that staff is concerned with most is the manufacturing. The commercial C3 zoning district by nature will allow office space, clinics, general administration, professional offices, and the like. The portion of the property here that we're looking at a floor plan here of the ground floor that our C3 district won't allow is the manufacturing area, and it's the intent of what they've put together in terms of the request to amend the zoning ordinance. They're trying to, I guess, narrowly describe their use, and thereby they want to include manufacturing under that umbrella of workforce development and training. So the issues that were indicated in your staff report, I'll just go through those here. So up on top, you can see that this is what they're asking for. They're requesting the training, counseling, workforce development facility operated by a nonprofit. So they're trying to narrowly describe their use, and they're seeking to get this changed so that they could then be considered a special use, and then thereby operate their organization at this location. So the issue that we have is that, staff notes, the first point here, staff notes that Beyond Vision proposes to operate an instructional or training facility, which is already happens to be listed in the C3 zone. Again, the difference is that they're just trying to more so narrowly describe it for their purposes. And then second point is that, based on our review of the code, the uses that they're seeking to place in this facility that have an issue with the C3 zone are the certified machine shop, which offers a wide range of services, perhaps CNC machining, some other machine works within where they're producing products, at a competitive price, which are going out the door. And then the second bullet point there is that they're also offering assembly and packaging services for a variety of needs within the building, bagging, packaging, labeling services, bench assembly. And then they're using the existing loading dock for, exporting those goods that they produce on site and shipping them, around the world conceivably to their clients. The fourth point is the point I just brought up previously in the previous slide is that 60% of their floor plan, or about 83,000 square feet, is manufacturing space. And the way the zoning ordinance in the C3 district is currently set up is that it doesn't allow for really any square footage of manufacturing space. The third point within your staff report was that, even if we want to consider training that occurs as the training that the facility they do, it doesn't really eliminate the fact that there are a number of assembly uses that they're also proposing to do that are only allowed in manufacturing zones. So in other words, if you have assembly as part of your operation, you have to sort of take that in consideration, and it is a manufacturing use. So, even if one qualifies and the other doesn't, it still doesn't qualify. And, they need a manufacturing zone in this case to conduct their business. And Beyond Vision is seeking an exception for the mixture of both commercial and manufacturing definitions, which would straddle more or less the line between commercial and industrial. And the C3 district just isn't set up for that as is. Fourth point is that instructional training facilities are, for just that, for, learning, whether it be a trade or whether it's martial arts, you're there, you typically pay a fee. If you're going to school, you typically pay a fee and you gain the training. Based on our current zoning code, the personal instruction topics listed are, basically individual skills, but they're not producing a product in the process of instruction. In this case, with Beyond Vision, they are actually manufacturing and creating products which are then being exported to their customers. That's one of the the other issues that we have is that basically no shipping of raw materials, finished products in and out of an instructional training facility typically. So in this case, they are going to be using that loading dock to ship materials to other places that they've produced. And while workforce training is being provided on site, again, it sort of gets back to you graduate typically once you're trained on the job, pretty much in any job for that matter, whether you're working for a city or for a company or an organization. Everybody has a bit of a learning curve where they learn their trade or their business, and they more or less graduate. But in this case, they're actually producing products. They're manufacturing things. At some point, those employees that are trained to do that job, whether it's CNC machining or assembly, they learn that skill, but now they're working for Beyond Vision at this site within the C3 zone, and they're essentially trained, but now they're in production mode. So our recommendation, as indicated in the staff report, is for denial based on those reasons. They made it, Beyond Vision has made an attempt to more narrowly describe the training use to fit their need. However, staff doesn't feel that it adequately covers the manufacturing uses that they wish to conduct on site. There may be another way of taking a look at it, but based on what we've received, our recommendation with the current proposal is for denial. This does, Plan Commission, we can certainly discuss this, and I want to turn it over to James Kerlin next, so he can describe his business and offer his rebuttal to our recommendation. But this will go before Common Council. We're expecting on the 15th of September, and it'll be council's option if they wish to conduct a public hearing or not. So with that, James, I'd like to turn it over to you at this point, just to offer your point of view.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So thank you, Mayor Devine and caring citizen members of the West Dallas Planning Commission. I promise to keep it brief so we can all get home for dinner. So what's Beyond Vision about? Our cause is simple. There's a 70% unemployment rate for people who are legally blind. So 7 out of 10 working age adults who are legally blind can't get a job. And that's what we're all about. We're all about creating those career opportunities. After shopping for a new home, we're out of space in our current facility. And after shopping for a new home for about 3 years, Beyond Vision purchased the property from Walmart last June. Because it's an optimum facility for us to allow us to grow our mission. Access to public transportation, as you might imagine, is a key need. People who are blind most of our employees get to and from work by public transportation. So, and that is a segue. I think one point I'd like to make to you is that, I was at the report out of your zoning study consultants, and one of the overarching challenges that West Dallas has and related to that zoning study was the traffic saturation of Highway 100. And just like to point out that since most of our employees use public transportation, we're not going to contribute to that traffic problem on Highway 100 significantly. We'll also create what's maybe not as apparent, and Steve didn't have this information, but it will have a pretty significant economic impact to West Dallas in the form of jobs, property taxes, local purchases. This is what we are predicting. We are all about jobs. That's what Westwood Beyond Vision is about, is to create jobs. We project 300 or more new West Dallas jobs over the next several years. Those will be both for people who are blind and sighted, direct labor and professional. We believe there will be a construction and renovation economic impact of about 15 million. And we believe there will be over the longer haul, the labor income economic impact is projected to be 28 million for West Dallas. We'd like to restart reconstruction this fall before year end. We obviously would like to have our entire operation under one roof, and that's why we're trying to find a solution. We do have contingency plans for our machine shop if we're not able to do that, find a solution. But I'd like to point out too that only a small portion of our shop area is arguably manufacturing per se. Our machine shop is less than 10% of our floor space and less than 10% of our revenue and jobs. So I'd like to turn it over to our counsel, Attorney Alan Markovitz. He'd like to also make a few brief points on our behalf. Alan, I think you're on mute. You got to. Yeah, you're still on mute. There's a microphone. You're on an iPad. I think it's in the lower or upper right-hand corner. There's a little microphone with a line through it. You got to touch that.
Here we go. Thank you. Thank you. My comment will be very brief, and it's more from a technical standpoint. When we were asked to look at this, we were aware of the fact that the application had been made for a straight rezoning. And when we looked at it, we thought that we could draw this into a much more narrow channel by proposing an addition to the code, which would allow a special use in a C3 district. When we submitted this, we did not submit an application for special use. And much of what Steve is referring to is what was developed 6 months or almost a year ago and has not really been brought up to date. So nothing is current. Our contemplation was that if the Common Council believes it's appropriate to put this on the books, we would be immediately then filing a detailed special use application, which would allow all of the details, some of which are not controversial and some of which apparently are, to be fully developed. We really are looking forward to having that opportunity, and we appreciate the time that you're taking to consider it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or are there any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Wayne.
Steve, have you received any comments from the council people who represent this district?
I did have a brief chat with Alderman Haas, and he is in support of the adjustment, the amendment to the ordinance. He feels that it is more narrowly described, and therefore he would be in support. So it's certainly, he definitely has a voice, and he's one of 10 council members, and certainly should council want to entertain a change to the ordinance, we're here to work with that and develop the special use. But based on the information that we have, and it may be dated, but I mean, it's what we have in terms of an application, so our recommendation is based on, the information received to date.
Would you put up on the screen, please, the recommendation?
Sure. Bear with me here. So based on their request for a training, counseling, or workforce development facility operated by a nonprofit social service organization for the purpose of enabling job and career opportunities to persons with sensory disabilities, we're recommending, denial of that, the way that's indicated, because in our opinion, I guess we currently allow, for those 4 reasons, or actually 5 points I think I had in the staff report. We don't feel that the current, use or definition that they're using here is adequately, covering the manufacturing use that they do have on site. And so you'd be interested in learning more about the specific, if there is less area of manufacturing, I guess it'd be good to have an updated floor plan to show the actual square footage or area of manufacturing space, and basically all of the uses within that building that they foresee, and perhaps then we'd have a better platform to dive into this a bit more.
So, Mr. Mayor, Steve.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Steve. This does go on to the council, correct?
You are correct, Wayne. Yes.
Well, then I would recommend approving your recommendation.
Okay, there's a motion to recommend denial.
I would second that motion.
Okay.
This is
and a
Eric.
sec- Thank you, Eric. Is there I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, I will ask everybody in favor of the motion to deny, or the motion to approve the denial, to signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. We will now move on to item 4,
Yes.
signage plan.
Yeah, so the same property, former Sam's Club, Beyond Vision is proposing a master signage plan. And if you recall, the former Sam's Club had probably a bit more than 400 square feet of signage on the building. Being a building that's 140,000 square feet, the sign ordinance actually does allow for 400 square feet of signage plus another 200 square feet in this case, because the building is set back. There's a multiplier within the ordinance. So for buildings, I'll just read it out here. For buildings that are greater than, has everybody seen the screen share here? I'm not sure if it's,
Yes.
okay. For buildings that are greater than 50,000 square feet and less than 300,000 square feet, they're allowed 400 square feet of wall signage area, plus additional signage area for the setback. And in this case, the building setback is approximately 400 feet. So that would give them an additional 200 feet of signage for a total of 600 square feet of signage allowed. They're asking to install 444 square feet, which is in compliance with the terms of and criteria of our signage ordinance. Furthermore, there's an existing freestanding sign along Highway 100, and they're basically looking at repaneling that for the visibility center Beyond Vision, and it does meet the sign ordinance. So we are recommending approval of their signage plan. A couple points to note that we are looking for some additional details in terms of the depth of the letters. There are some raised letters or individual letters that are being used. Dimensional letters are being used on the signs, and some of the logos have a dimension to them. Furthermore, the backer panel that they're using on the wall signage, we'd like to see the depth of that. I mean, we'd prefer that it not be flat. We'd like to see some return or some dimension to that backer panel, just to give it a little bit more pop and articulation on the exterior of the building. So with that, we are recommending approval of the master signage plan as noted.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions from the commission?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Clark, a second by Commissioner Dagenhart. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will move on to items 5A, 5B.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a proposal for B&E Kitchen, which is a shared kitchen space, commercial kitchen space with an event space or an assembly hall at 5901 West Beloit Road. Carlos Beltran is one of the owners and going to be the future operator of this use. Carlos, are you with us this evening, or anyone from the property ownership?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, thank you. So thanks for joining us tonight. So what we're looking at here, if you recall, West Dallas Historians is a former Scardina bakery. It is a mixed-use building with a residence on the east end of the property. The actual production portion of the bakery was in the center. And then the retail portion of what was the former bakery is on the west end. And what Mr. Beltran is interested in doing on the portion of the screen to your right there, the reddish colored rectangle is the area that we're talking about this evening. Everything in gray or tan there to the left is existing unoccupied commercial space as well as an existing residence. So it is an owner-occupied residence on the far east end along 59th Street. It's the far west end that is the subject of tonight's special use. And it's about almost a 4,000 square foot space, half of which is maybe a little bit over half of which is going to be used as a party room or assembly area, what we call an event space. And then the rear portion behind the party room is going to be the commercial kitchen area. The property is zone C2, neighborhood commercial. Shared kitchens, limited food production, assembly halls are all considered special uses within that zoning district. The hours of operation that are going to be presented to the Common Council on September 1st are Sunday through Thursday from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then Friday and Saturdays, 7 a.m. to midnight. Now, those are sort of vastly broad hours of operation. However, in the event and catering business, with perhaps multiple caterers coming and booked for different times of the year, some flexibility is needed in those hours. So while they may not always have events or cooking going on within that broad of a time range, we feel it's realistic given the nature of the use. The slide here that we have is just showing a little bit, again, sort of a little bit more detail of the owner-occupied portion of the building, the unoccupied portion of the building, and then the event space area. Again, roughly a total of 4,000 square feet being considered for this special use. It's broken up into shared kitchen and event space areas. It is a mixed-use building. 26 parking stalls are required for the property, and 10 are provided on site. Being in the east end, the fashionable east side of West Dallas, and traditional neighborhood, there really aren't a lot of massive parking lots for off-street parking. In this case, there happens to be roughly about 10 parking stalls. About eight of so are on the south end of the property along accessible from 59th Street. And then on the east side of the site off of 59th Street, another couple stalls here for the residents. There is a garage space on the property as well, but that's primarily going to be used for storage and perhaps even the occasional food truck that's a place to park it overnight. With respect to the exterior of the building, there isn't really going to be much change proposed to the former bakery space. They're proposing just on freshening up the exterior, cleaning it up. They've already replaced some of the concrete upon entry into the front entrance. They do have an opportunity to create some outdoor seating areas where they could put some smaller tables in that front porch area that you see there, which would be on their site. There's also the opportunity to install maybe even some additional tables along the sidewalk along Beloit Road. So you can notice here that the sidewalk that they have out there is a little bit wider than the traditional, 5-foot wide sidewalk. This is probably about an 8 to 10 foot wide sidewalk in that area. So it would be conducive to, if the applicant desires to actually have some additional outdoor seating in front, which would further, set off the look and the fact that there's a new business here on Beloit Road. What part of our staff recommendation is also, though, to provide some basic landscaping attributes to the front porch area here, whether it be planters or hanging baskets. We've all seen that along places along Beecher Street, some of the newer businesses and restaurants there. It creates a nice effect, some nice curb appeal, which would be very welcome in the Burnham Point neighborhood here. So the elevations that we're showing here are more or less what's reflecting what's already more or less there. Part of our recommendation too is to get back to us and come back to the Planning Commission with a future plan for the center portion of the building. It's you can see the remnant kind of, I guess, ghost sign, if you call it, from the old Scardina Bakery. And then you have the land and stone that extends from the eastern corner of the site on 59th Street across, and then it ends. And then you have a a doorway, which with a painted, brown painted cement block. So we're looking for a phased approach to this plan, and it is within the owner's intent to take a look at that. The immediate plan, of course, is to get the business up and running, hopefully successfully, and then come back to the Planning Commission with a future phase 2 plan for the center portion, and just dressing that up a bit to create a new look for that center space. The other thing that would also prompt Planning Commission's review is if the ownership finds a tenant for that center space. Right now it's unoccupied. They don't have a tenant in mind that I'm aware of. Perhaps Carlos, you can let us know, but I mean, it's something that they don't want to leave unoccupied for a long term. They do want to plug in a tenant there. Within the plan that we have here that they've submitted, they are showing removing the existing glass block window underneath the Scardina's Bakery sign, putting in some new windows on each side of a new doorway, removing that existing awning on the front. So there are some basic changes and improvements that they're thinking about right now. But I think there's also an opportunity to maybe do a little bit more to dress it up with perhaps some additional lighting, awnings, even some signage to help set the facade off and call some some positive attention to it. So we're recommending approval subject to the conditions in the staff report. Let me just go over those real quick, but basically the first condition there is to submit an updated site landscaping plan to show basically an updated architectural plan for that north elevation, to take a look at maybe some additional attributes to clean that up a bit, lighting, perhaps some other signage, some different ideas to maybe that could potentially project off the building somewhat to give it a little more pop and articulation. The hours of operation, we have the hours of operation since the writing of the staff report, so we can cross item B off. And then confirmation of any outdoor seating along Beloit Road. And then also confirmation of some additional landscaping or storefront planters along Beloit Road on the site. I'd also like to add on the back side of the site on that parking lot, if I can just go back to that real quick. The site does, on the south end of the site, it does abut a residence to the south. And there is an existing fence back here, but portions of that fence I think are in bad shape. And maybe it's even that, I haven't looked too close at the survey, but it could perhaps even be the residential fence. But it'd be our recommendation to add to tonight's recommendation to just take a look at perhaps adding some additional landscaping on the site back here. If there's space, however, I think it'd be a bit easier perhaps to maybe take a look at a decorative fence, like a wood board-on-board style of fence for, short run back here where it makes sense, just to help screen, any food trucks or employee vehicles that are parked back here. This is a residence that's located just to the right of the B&E kitchen, and we just want to sort of protect property interest as best possible, given the close proximity. That's all I have. If there are any questions, Carlos, how'd I do? Is there anything additional you'd like to share?
No, I think you did a great job explaining my business plan and my vision. So thank you, and thanks for hearing out my plan.
Sounds good. Thank you. Are there any questions from the members of the Plan Commission?
Yes, Mayor Devine, this is Eric. I
Yeah,
just had a
go
question
ahead,
for
Eric.
Steve. Yeah,
Sure.
Steve, so based on your presentation, yes, the site has some nice opportunities for improvement. Do you know what the applicant's time frame is to start the rollout here of these improvements?
Yeah, so the next step in our municipal process is for this to go before Common Council on September 1st. And then thereafter, we'll be working with Carlos and his team on updating the site landscaping architectural plans in accordance with the Planning Commission and Council's recommendations. And then it'd be in the process of pulling permits, getting specific building plans, construction plans into the building inspections department for permit. I know currently, I think Carlos, you can help me out here, but I think your plumber is submitting plans for perhaps an additional bathroom within the building currently.
Yes, so the actual plans that you're showing show the second bathroom, but that's one of the bigger alterations that we are planning on. It's just adding that second bathroom next to the current bathroom, and the building permit and the plumbing permit, we're working on that right now.
Okay, so when would you expect, once we get through the, I guess, the council and work out any revised plans, how soon would you like to be open for business?
So I know I talked to the building inspection yesterday, and they said that the turnaround time for a permit and that plan is about 10 days. So I'm pretty much waiting as soon as we can. So yeah, and anything that has to do with that side of the building, so the B&E hall and kitchen, it's as soon as possible. Yeah.
Okay.
I was hoping September 1st, but with we just got delayed a little bit. So I'm still shooting for September. It just kind of depends when mid-September or the end of September.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric. Any other questions from the members of the commission? Okay, does anybody wish to, I'm sorry, we don't have a motion, correct?
Not yet.
I'd make a motion, Mayor Devine, to approve staff recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Torkelson.
Second.
Second, I'm going to guess that Commissioner Rashka beat by an eighth of a second. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any other discussion on that motion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Item carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we can move on to item 6A, 6B.
Yes. I see David Secor out there. He's with the West Allis Masonic Lodge, 291. And they're interested in locating their organization at 11037 Oklahoma. This is the former Arts Camera, going a couple of businesses back, and now, well, it's currently the Coins and Quilts business, but it hopes to become the West Allis Masonic Lodge. And if you recall, the Masons were located on 75th and National, and they've sold that property, and so they're looking to relocate here on 110th and National. It's part of the Ace Hardware, U.S. Postal Service, and site on the west end of the city. It is a separate lot within that area, and it does have off-street parking. Let's just move on to the next slide here. It is an assembly. Assemblies require a special use, and being that it was a former retail and secondhand article type of store, the change in use does trigger a special use permit before the Planning Commission for site landscaping architectural review, as well as the Common Council use approval. So the lodge will include about 10 to 15 members at a time. The hours of operation are generally 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. It varies throughout the week. They have basically night meetings, on Fridays, third Fridays of each month, and the fourth Mondays of each month, and the fourth Tuesday of each month, and then Saturdays, first and third Saturdays, 10 to 4. So not always there. I mean, somebody will typically probably be there for just office and general maintenance types of uses, but their meetings are held at certain times throughout the year, similar fashion to like Planning Commission and Common Council. So there is an existing site and landscaping plan for the property. I'd say most of the landscaping that's been approved previously by Planning Commission is out there. I think there are some areas for some infill maintenance, maybe some freshening up, but overall the site is in good condition. And they have a total of 14 parking stalls on site, which does meet the zoning requirement for parking. In terms of architecture, really no change on the exterior with the exception of if you recall, in the east elevation of the former location on 75th and National, they have a large metal compass, which is the icon of the Masons, and they'd like to bring that. They have it in their possession. They want to bring it here and install it on the front of the building. I would be willing to consider that, I guess, an architectural feature on the front of the building. It is a large element, and nevertheless, I guess we can take a closer look at that, whether it's signage or an architectural feature. But it would be placed on that center window, and it would project up into the gable area. Proportionally, it is large, but I think it's a unique feature. Being a piece of metal work. And I think it could complement the building on that north elevation. Internally, there are some significant renovations taking place inside, including restrooms, plumbing, electrical, the flooring, also a new roof. They're going to be resurfacing the parking lot as well. So they are spending roughly about $250,000 on the improvements, in addition to the real estate purchase. So we're recommending approval subject to the conditions in the staff report, which are explained here. There's a drive-through sign on the front parking lot area. We'd like to see that removed as part of this. And then as far as any site plan changes, none have been indicated other than, just some resurfacing of the parking lot. But the expectation would be for maintenance of existing landscaping areas. And if there are some areas that have died off or need some infill, those should be infilled with landscaping. Aside from that, council approval will take place on September 1st. And we haven't received any objections. Typically, any special use, we always send out a notice to property owners within 200 feet, as well as publishing the notice within the official paper. So we haven't received any concerns or complaints from the neighborhood at this point. And the next step is the common council meeting. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Steve. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move approval, and I would include the compass as an architectural feature of the building.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second, Kathleen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Steve, I just had one question on
Yes.
the landscaping as it stands today. It is up to code, and there's enough there. It's on a main drag, so I'm just making sure there's enough green there to have it look nice from the streetscape.
Yeah, and that there are some nice landscape bed areas, and in looking at it, earlier this week, I think there are some opportunities to do some additional infill, and we'll work with David and his team of masons to get that done.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. The item is passed. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
We will now move on to item 7.
Item 7 is for the Curative Care Network. They're proposing a storage shed at 1647 South 147th Street, South 101st Street. And this is the existing view from 101st Street looking west. The building's on the west side of the street, and then their proposal is to add a storage garage and some additional pavement on the south side of the site. The building is set back roughly about 225 feet. This is just a site plan view. And the pavement that's being added is purely just for access to the front of the storage garage. It will have 2 overhead garage doors as well as a smaller personnel door to access the building. I'll get into the elevations next, but the back side of the site is currently grass. The area between the main building and the new storage shed is currently a gravel or the gravel surface, and that's going to be grassed as well. The existing landscaping area that sort of projects out and then around that new driveway area will remain. There's some existing arborvitaes in that area that will be kept in place. There's a bioswale that's being added on the south side of the, my animations are catching up here, on the south side of the new storage structure. It sort of wraps around behind the building and then comes around to the south. It extends out towards 101st Street. That bioswale is going to more or less provide stormwater runoff and capture not only the runoff from the new building, the storage building, but also from the new paved surface, and then keep that runoff on site and where it can naturally attenuate or percolate into the ground. There is a stormwater overflow closer towards 101st Street. Staff has also just more or less indicated that this could be also a nice opportunity for a rain garden feature. Like just to throw that out there for curative for their consideration, but we feel the bioswale is definitely a nice way to capture water on site and keep it on site rather than running it off or sheet draining it off, throwing it to a catch basin where it immediately goes, back to the lake. But so we'd rather keep the water on site longer where it has a chance to sort of naturally infiltrate into the existing watershed. And that's what's being proposed here. In addition, so the elevations of the building, where we started was basically with just a metal building, and where we're going with our recommendations here is for a brick base, at least facing, on the east elevation of the building. It's roughly about 3 or 4 feet. And then on the garage doors that are proposed, we've asked for windows, some transparency in there. There is going to be 3 windows per overhead door. We've asked for an awning on the front of the building. They're showing that over the top of the personnel door. And then in terms of color, it is going to be a brownish color tone. The brick will match the existing, the main building. There will be a lighting feature above the, centered in the gable area. So they've added some treatments to the building, primarily on the east elevation. We did give some consideration to maybe wrapping some of those features around to the sides and the back. However, in looking at the site, it is in the placement of this storage shed, it is set back 225 feet. It's kind of insulated between 2 buildings, and then behind the storage shed, there's an existing vegetative, kind of a wooded area with a lot of, volunteer growth. So we felt that the changes that they're proposing in the east elevation here are adequate and, satisfied our basic guidelines. So we are recommending approval subject to the conditions in the staff report. We did get the color details, which is a brown exterior of the building with the brick to match the building. Exterior lighting has been referenced. We would just add that we'd like to see, or just ensure that it's provides some cutoff fixtures, that it doesn't become a nuisance for neighbors to the east. There is a residential area to the east. And then consideration for adding a rain garden within that bioswale on the south end of the site. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Steve. Does anybody on the commission have questions?
I just want to thank Curative for implementing that. I think it's nice to manage stormwater where it falls, and it's a great addition. So thank you.
Thank you. If there is no discussion, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. If there is no other discussion on the motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we can move on to item 8.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the We Energy site and on 116th Street, the 300 block of 116th. And they're proposing to repave portions of existing pavement on site, basically, removing existing pavement, putting some new pavement down. And they're also going to be changing some gravel surfaces to pavement. We have required a stormwater management plan, which is under review with our city plumber. In fact, our city plumber has indicated that I think he's more or less satisfied. He shared that with MMSD, and it is meeting the requirements. So with respect to the proposal, I don't know if you can see this here, but I'm not sure. Is this let me make sure you guys are, for some reason, I'm not sure you're getting the slide I'm looking at here. Is it jumping right to the recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. So there's something wrong with the animations here, but if I could explain, I mean, there's an existing parking area south of the building on site. That pavement's going to be removed and replaced with new asphalt. And they're not going down to you know, the base. You're going down to a base, but not dirt. So it's basically just removing it down to base and putting asphalt back in. And looking at the site, the overall property is landscaped along 116th Street. We had considered some additional landscaping along 116th Street just to sort of soften the edge. But in looking at the existing site, there is quite a tree-lined presence along 116th Street, as well as on their site itself. And I was kind of hoping the presentation would show this here, but running into a problem with that, I think. So let me just see here. Well, it's not working out, but we are recommending approval subject to the staff recommendation, which is more or less approval and just ensuring that our city plumber is satisfied with the plans that have been presented with respect to stormwater management, and indications are that so far so good.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve
I'll second it.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Then we'll move on to item 9.
Thanks, Mayor. Okay, item 9 is Nathan Hale parking lot. They've actually started the work of removing asphalt on the west and south parking lots. Their interest is to repave that area. They've brought it down to grade and are in the process of submitting a stormwater management plan. They're doing some under drain work as well as regrading of the site. The plan will also include some new LED full cutoff light fixtures, which will be placed around the site. So the areas that you can see here with blue dashed outlines, the west parking lot, and then south of the building, that parking lot there, those are the two areas we're talking about. The picture that's taken and shown on the right side is taken from Lincoln Avenue. So they're disturbing roughly about 195,000 square feet of square footage. They are adding additional parking spaces, 65 within the west parking lot and 42 within the south parking lot. The way they're getting to those additional numbers is, if you're familiar with the Nathan Hale parking lot now, it is an angled configuration of parking. There is some efficiency in changing that to 90 degree, and in converting that to 90 degree perpendicular parking stalls, they're able to gain the additional stalls. So their proposal was basically what you see on the screen here, just restriping, reconfiguring. They're going to be keeping the existing landscaping island between the school, the drop-off area on the west entrance, as well as some of the other islands south of that. The perimeter landscaping is not changing either. The trees that you see there are going to remain. They are proposing some additional curb work within the property. On the south side of the property, a mountable curb, which will allow for their snow plowing activities to push the snow up over the curb and onto the abutting grass surface to the south of the parking lot. The white lines are new curbs that are being installed. around the perimeter of the parking lot, at the entry and exit points to 117th Street, as well as the existing islands south in the south parking lot and along the drop-off lanes on the west side of the building. The staff had started with a recommendation for adding 3 additional landscaping islands on the south end caps of that west parking lot, but they were smaller landscaping islands. And with the concern from the school district that would be somewhat of an obstruction for their snow plowing activities in the winter, they opted to instead create, basically take those 3 that we were recommending along the south and put them all together into one larger island with potentially some more meaningful landscaping at the south end. It would measure roughly about 40 feet long, which is the length of 2 parking stalls in that end cap, by about 18 feet wide. So it will be a larger landscaping area on the south end cap. And we are asking for, while we are recommending approval, we are asking for some additional details of what the landscaping is exactly within that new landscaping island. Additionally, if I go back to the previous slide here, we're asking for some additional, at least 3 evergreen trees to sort of complete what's been started here along 117th Street and wrap that around to the north side of the parking lot, which would be between Lincoln Avenue and the parking lot area. So what we're asking for some additional landscaping details, landscaping key to go along with their landscaping plan. They are reconfiguring the parking to show 1 larger island at the south end cap. And we're looking for lighting details. They have since submitted those. A photometric plan's been submitted along with the LED poles. It's a 25-foot tall pole. And there are a number of poles along both the east and south parking lot. Staff has currently got that under review. And the main thing being that in terms of planning's perspective, we're mainly concerned that it's something that's going to be shielded and not create a nuisance for the neighborhood to the west primarily, but also facing Lincoln as well. And then the second condition being that they get approval from MSD and they meet the state's DNR NR 151 requirements for water quality. If there's any questions, I'm happy to help.
Yeah,
out.
Steve, this is Eric. Or
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I just had a question. In the west parking lot, was there any discussion of having speed bumps put in at all, or any traffic calming features?
No, in fact, that was not.
I mean, should that be a discussion point? I mean, from my planning standpoint.
You could certainly install them. I think the tendency is, though, I mean, while that landscaping island I think the thought with that landscaping island was to help sort of channel some of the traffic and prevent a lot of the, cutting through or cutting corners to cross an entire row of parking to go, let's just say, closer to, to the shortcut towards the entrance. There could still be, speeding through these aisles up and down, north or south or east or west.
Correct.
It is something that school district, Steve Eichmann, I think, is on the call or the Zoom call with us here. Steve, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, wherever there were speed bumps in the parking lot before we started reconstruction, we're putting those back in the same place.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I will ask for a motion to approve if the commission so decides.
I'll make a motion to approve staff recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries. Thank you. And our 10th item will be the business relocation for Roman Electric.
Thank you, Mayor. Terry, Terry Bartman is proposing a plan for Roman Electric. Terry's with Roman Electric. Terry, I'm not sure if you're on our Zoom call this evening, but what's happening here is that on 114th and Lincoln, Easter Seals is currently located there. Easter Seals is downsizing, and they're selling their property. They have an offer from Roman Electric, who's currently located in Milwaukee on 70th in Maine, I believe. And they'd be relocating their operation to West Allis, to the Easter Seals location. And this was formerly, before Easter Seals, a CU fleet operation. So there is an existing garage on the east side of the property, which was used for, as their shop or showroom. And there are a number of offices within the building currently. So Roman Electric plans to, I'll just show you their plan here, but Roman Electric is planning to convert the west parking lot, which is on the left side of this site plan. They're going to convert part of that to an outdoor storage area with a 6-foot high chain link fence with privacy slats, as well as adding additional landscaping around that perimeter. And then moving to the right, the most significant portion of this plan is that they're going to be adding an additional 27 parking stalls. The reason behind that is that they do have full-time office staff on site of about 22 full-time employees, but there's also going to be a number of service people on site throughout the day that come and go. They do have routine staff meetings and events held on site here. So they are needing some additional parking stalls. They have, I think, about 85 on site currently. They need the additional 27 to support the changes that they're making with the addition of the outdoor storage area that takes away some parking on the west side. So they're looking to mitigate that, plus add some more to accommodate the service fleet that's going to be routinely coming and going to the site to pick up equipment and leave for various job sites. So on the west side of the property, they're also proposing an additional 10 parking stalls on the far east side of the property on your right, another 10 stalls over there. The new asphalt that's being added on the south end, staff is basically, I would say, a bit reluctant to let go of some of the green space that's currently there on the south side of the property. And because it is sort of a nice front yard lawn area, there are a couple trees within that area, and we thought that it looks really nice. Why take it away for additional parking? So as part of that removal of pavement there, we've asked Roman Electric, if you need that parking there, why not create permeable pavement or pavers of some sort in that location. So they are proposing to do a permeable paver or pavement on the south side of that building. They will still have landscaping along the foundation of the building. And in addition, they're going to be adding some additional landscaping and screening around the west side of that site where the outdoor storage yard, and there will be a small handful of employee parking stalls over there as well. So you're going to be adding additional screening there to help buffer any outdoor storage areas. On the south side of the property, further, just over here, they're also going to be adding additional landscaping, some additional trees in this area, as well as perennial plantings. And then they're actually going to be proposing a retaining wall here. There's a grade difference between this existing parking lot here and the self-storage facility to the east. But they're moving the retaining wall all the way over to the edge of the property line on their site. And then that creates some space here for some additional landscaping to be added between the new parking lot and the retaining wall. They're showing Connex boxes, or what those are basically storage pods on the north side of their building, and they're not going to actually do those. And after submitting this plan to us, we discussed that with Roman, and they're not going to be proposing those storage boxes. Those will be coming off on with the revised plan they submit as a condition of our approval. They're going to be removing those, and if they do have a need for additional storage on site, they're going to have to do that within their building or build an addition on the building for storage. The storage pods are not an acceptable long-term means of storage. So with that, they are also proposing some lighting updates. There's a pole on the east side of the site here that's going to be removed and relocated. But that's the gist of it. Our recommendation, as stated in the staff report, indicates an updated site and landscaping plan with showing some additional details in terms of landscaping, more specifics in terms of the types of landscaping, the species, permeable pavements or pavers, those details, as well as removal of those storage boxes like we talked about from the plan. We'll also want the outdoor storage, the type of equipment that they're going to be storing within that outdoor storage area. You want to make sure that it's contained within that outdoor storage area and that there's some order and organization to it, as well as, while certain vehicles will likely exceed the height of that fence, we want to sort of a little bit better accounting of what that's going to be and how many. And our landscaping species that they're going to be putting in around there, we're going to want to make sure it's designed to grow and exceed the fence height to better screen what it is they're storing out there. So that's the point of condition number 1. Conditions 2 and 3 are standards cost estimate for landscaping and screening, as well as a surety bond or letter credit, just to more or less guarantee what Plan Commission approves gets implemented. And then 4th point is cross access. We want to see a copy of the cross access agreement. There is one currently between property owners, all property owners on site. Actually, the site is just Roman Electric, but there are, if you notice from this aerial view, there are other properties here. Caliber Collision is here on 114th and Lincoln, and then there's a Stanley Steamer and some other multi-tenant commercial here. All of these have cross access from Lincoln Avenue to and 114th Street. So there is that shared access now, but with the addition of this parking on the south side of the Roman site, they do need to get the permission of Caliber Collision. So we're just encouraging them to show us, get us a confirmation of that, your workings and agreements with them, so that we have some accounting of that. So that's all. If there's any questions, I'm happy to help answer.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval.
Thank you, Wayne. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Dagenhart. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right. That concludes our agenda this evening. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for us, Steve?
Stay healthy. One thing I'd like to, just to give everybody a big thank you for is that, there's a lot of, and Mayor, you can back me up on this. You're a big part of it, but there's a lot of new, despite the pandemic and some of the, circumstances going on in the world today. I mean, there's a lot of positive things going on in West Allis. Our Holiday Inn and Suites opened back in July. We've got a host of some new restaurants taking place. They just opened. Capri had their grand opening the other day, ribbon cutting.
Camino.
I'm sorry, Camino. Capri is actually their reunion offering on 6610. Nationals underway and under construction. They hope to be open, if not later this year, early next year. And there's some new murals going up around town. So there's a lot of really positive things taking place in the city. And I want to thank you all for being a part of that and your support. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And there's also the co-working space opened up in our downtown.
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
There's another one coming. Oh, National Avenue between 76th and 83rd is supposed to be opening up in the next few weeks as well. It's open westbound right now, but they're working on the streetscaping and things like that. So kind of nice. Yeah, like you kind of said, Steve, it's kind of nice to see things. Some of the momentum I felt the community really had captured prior to the whole pandemic is still evident, and we're still seeing a lot of those projects staying on track, which is good because you'd hate to lose that momentum.
Agreed.
If there's nothing else, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank
All
Thank
right, have
you.
a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, take care.